Alright, as I eat, we will judge this person. Why you should be more pretentious by horses. This was a recommended video by someone.
For most people, pretentious falls under the category of you know it when you see it. Kind of floats around with other words like snobby, artsy, snooty, or arrogant, but I think a lot of people don't really have a strong functioning definition of pretentious. When something or someone is pretentious, they are attempting to be something that often they are not. Fine dining is labeled pretentious because the chef thinks he's creating something more than food.
The definition here, if he uses this as his working definition, sure, yeah, be pretentious. Strive for things that are greater than the most base view of things. That's not what makes something pretentious.
Might seem like an innocent enough critique, but in labeling something pretentious, you run into a lot of problems. You divide people, you discourage creativity, and you even do yourself a great disservice. Sometimes by calling something pretentious, you yourself are engaging in pretension. Above all that, being pretentious is usually a good thing. It's literally the fuel that pushes our society forward.
No, it fucking isn't. Because normally when people judge something as pretentious, it's when they're pretending to be something that they've failed to be. Not when they're trying to be something that elevates a medium. And they're trying to produce something that elevates a medium or create something transcendent or whatever. It's when they're pretending their shit is that when it ain't.
Everything you love exists because of pretension.
No.
I want to explain why.
Good luck, brother. You've pissed me off. I'm gonna eat some rice. I'll let you. Policing authenticity is the next chapter. Oh my god, who the fuck sent this to me? I hate you.
The idea of pretension often boils down to a perceived lack of authenticity. It's not about liking something. Pretentious people just pretend to like things to impress other people, some may say. Well, the fact is, we are all inauthentic by that standard. We all wear masks every day. I mean, if you want to be kind of annoying, to be a person is to wear a mask.
Shut the fuck up. We don't all do that. We don't all... Okay. He's gone from the specific to the more general, right? Someone pretending to like something they don't like. Okay? But when people are calling something pretentious, they don't say that every time someone pretends to like something they don't like. If you go along with something in a social setting, you'll be like, oh yeah, that's nice, when you're not really into it. No one would call that pretentious. It's a different thing. At least he sounds like he's defining it as people pretending to like something they don't like. And then using the definition he's come up with, going, oh, but that's dumb because it applies to all these other things. Motherfucker, you made up that definition. You rolled with that.
Mask. The word comes from the Greek word persona, which means a mask. The truth is, there are parts of your personality that...
Fucking argument from etymology. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. All that matters is how people use it now. The word fucking sinister comes from sinistro, which means fucking left. Oh, he's calling this guy's motives sinister? It must mean he thinks he has leftward intentions. No.
That you edit out or emphasize, depending on if you're talking to your boss, your kids, your parents, or whoever. You don't tell your grandmother you drop acid every weekend, but you'll talk about it forever with your friends. Your romantic partner probably knows that you hate working, but you never tell your boss.
And now note that no one calls this shit pretentious, which then means, actually, if you're saying this falls under the definition of pretentious, you're wrong. Because people don't use it to refer to this, so there must be something inaccurate in what you think people mean when they say it.
We are all constantly adjusting our personalities to suit other people. That's just life. So what grounds do we have to...
Holy fuck! Your personality isn't adjusted. Your presentation of yourself.
People for allegedly doing the same. But beyond that, there's the question of policing authenticity.
Fuck. Chat, chill. Chat, chill. Chat, chill.
Who are you?
Just pretend that ad didn't happen.
You to say that someone else does or doesn't really like something. In the 1980s, New York hip-hop artists in basements and at block parties began sampling the music of German, conservatory-educated band Kraftwerk. Was their interest in this German music somehow inauthentic? Were they just being pretentious?
It's a case by case. Oh my god. It's case by case. It's a case by case issue. Bro, some motherfuckers, you can just tell they're going along with the bandwagon because it's what's cool or whatever. But even then, that's not pretentious. Maybe if people with high status and they want to be seen as high status and they go along with something because it's seen as elevated and they pretend to like it to be seen as elevated too, that specifically might be called pretentious, and you might judge a particular individual in that way because you see the signs that they don't really like it in that particular instance.
I find it incredibly cynical to just automatically assume the worst about people and their interests. So if we can set aside the amorphous blob of authenticity, the first problem with labeling things as pretentious is one of policing taste, and even more insidiously, class. For starters, if people like things that you don't like or understand, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. You don't get to tell other people what they're allowed to like. But certain things are...
I like telling people what they're allowed to like. Get owned. Idiot. Also, how is calling something pretentious telling them they're not allowed to like it? Even under the standard that you're saying they don't really like it, you're expressing doubt at them liking it. Genuinely. You're not saying they can't.
Art, food, some movies have an association with an elite class.
Yes.
When so-called regular people...
Yes! And the people who want to be associated with that elite class or seen as being part of it or in on it might pretend to like something they don't to be seen as part of that class because that association exists, you dumb motherfucker.
These things or claim to be interested in them, those people are often labeled as pretentious. In this way, the conversation of pretense serves as a way to keep people within the cultural bounds of their class. You can only enjoy what your class status says you.
No. It's because you judge them to be trying. It's because you think their motivation is to get out of their class bracket, right?
You can enjoy. If you attempt to rise from that set of interests, people use the blunt stick of pretension to beat you down into submission.
Someone called me pretentious. Ah, my bones! No, it doesn't stop. I don't think being called pretentious has ever stopped anyone.
And indeed, being pretentious usually isn't harmful. But calling people pretentious...
No! No, it fucking isn't. Neither is harmful. Neither is. You're right about the first one. Normally being pretentious is harmless. Calling them pretentious also harmless.
Always is. For one, you're simultaneously being condescending and being self-loathing. You call someone's enjoyment
self-loathing? How is condescension harmful as well? It's harmful because you're being condescending. How does that cause harm?
Of a topic pretentious, you're basically saying, you're too dumb to understand this thing. But you're also admitting that...
No, they're not. I don't think that's necessarily what they're saying. You've already said that it's to do with an association with the elite. Things might be viewed as something that the elite are into, a different class are into. It's like saying, you don't like this. It's not saying they don't understand it, necessarily. You can say someone's too dumb to get it. People say that all the time, especially with like niche stuff like music. If someone's like, this is normally when someone says this is shit, you respond to them with, you're just too dumb to get it. That's normally what's expressed to people who say they don't like something, not people who say they do. What the fuck?
That you yourself don't understand the thing. So in turn, you would also be too dumb to get it. So the conversation is just really harmful to both parties involved.
It's not what...
You see, when you use the word pretentious...
His argument works if you assume a bunch of shit that's wrong. Nice. Valid logic that isn't sound. Let's go.
...is to cut down other people's efforts, you are making the world a worse place. You're not helping anyone, and you are discouraging people from doing interesting, exciting, creative exploration. You don't have to like that exploration, but I don't think you get to discourage others from engaging in it.
You draw the line of what people can do at discouragement. That's fucked. That's fucked. That's stupid. Also, if I wanted to sink to his level, you can just take another step back, right? He's telling me I don't understand what I'm doing by expressing my belief of someone else's pretension. He's discouraging me from expressing myself. Therefore, he's holding back all of mankind by trying to restrict my expression. Fuck off.
One of the great ironies in pretension is that using the word is often a mask for its own version of pretension. It is downward pretension. People often think that liking cheap beer over fine wine or whatever somehow makes them more grounded or down to earth. This is obviously not true. There are politicians who ditch their ties and roll up their sleeves in an effort to seem more of the proletariat. They use this prolier-than-thou facade to get the support of the working class. They dupe people into believing, I'm one of you. Surely this is the truly harmful version of pretension.
So he does believe people pretend to like things or be into things so that you'll associate them with a particular image, class, kind of person. You're calling them pretentious! That you believe people behave this way means that people are right. It's not just that people are attacking people for being pretentious. It can be... He's essentially admitting that it can be a correct characterization of someone. And now this means he's saying, don't call people something they are. Fuck off.
After all, sometimes it works. To be pretentious is simply to aim for something beyond your current state of being. While
No, it isn't. It's to assert that you're already there when you're not.
these efforts sometimes fail, I don't see a world in which they are a bad thing or worth being insulted. In fact, quite the opposite. Pretension has proven to be one of the greatest tools humans have.
One of the greatest tools humans have.
Everybody, it's Tony Robbins.
So when someone says, oh, I must simply eat this with a golden spoon, you must use the most expensive spoon to eat this micro cup of soup. It must be made with the bones of enslaved children. It's one of the greatest tools we have. Nice. Based.
Pretension is progress. Pretension is ambition. When someone...
It's the opposite. It's the opposite. It's pretending you're there. It's pretending you're something you're not and you're already there. Maybe it's pretending you're something you could be but aren't. It's trying to skip the process.
engages in pretension, they are striving to redefine what is capable within a chosen medium. They're aiming for greatness. If a Spanish artist hadn't questioned the limits of painting, we wouldn't have Pablo Picasso. If a couple of California hippies hadn't
He actually did it though. He did it though.
envisioned a greater role for the personal computer, we wouldn't have the iPhone. Now, certainly not everyone will be Pablo Picasso or Steve Jobs, but I do believe that everyone deserves a chance to try. If we start policing people's ambition by just writing them off as pretentious, then we...
Calling someone what does policing mean? Policing. You tell someone who's developing a new tech that's pretentious. Oh fuck, the numbers, they're gone from my brain. Ah! What do you mean policing?
kill ideas before they even have a chance to start. Pretension inherently carries risk. The risk of overreaching your own capability and the risk of failure. But even that...
Is pretension bad? Well, pretension is attempting to do anything good, so if you think attempting to do anything good is bad, you're an idiot.
Failure is important, because with each failure, a creative person, be they a scientist or a painter, sort of stumbles closer and closer to something truly magnificent. Without these failures, nothing we love would exist as we know it today. That includes drama, painting, cinema, literature, science, engineering, agriculture, everything. All developments are the result of pretentious people failing over and over again till they succeed.
No.
By throwing the word pretentious around as a pejorative, we're saying that people might fail, so they shouldn't even bother trying. I think we can...
No, normally you call someone pretentious when for something they've already done. When do you call someone pretentious for saying, I'm going to try and do this? You're pretentious. He's describing people being over-ambitious and calling people over-ambitious. This is nothing to do with pretension.
We can all agree this is a ridiculous sentiment. When we are children, we learn about the world by trying new things. We engage in fleeting interest to discover what our true lifelong passions will be. But certainly you would never call a child pretentious.
Yes, certainly we wouldn't. Guess what that means? You're wrong about the definition of pretentious if you think it should apply to these people, because no one uses it that way. This isn't evidence you're right, this is evidence you're wrong, because people don't use pretentious like this, otherwise they would call kids pretentious. They don't call kids pretentious because no one uses pretentious this way.
I would argue that what we often frame as pretension is just this same curiosity. People are curious about what a medium can do. They are curious about exploring the bounds of a certain...
No, because when people are called pretentious, it's normally when they're asserting that something is a certain way and they have it sorted out. Normally, it's when someone says, for example, this film raises the bar. It does do this. It's already made. It's here. This is what it does. This is the best. I've made this thing that is this good. It's not, I'm going to try and do that. That's pretentious. No, never.
Certain thing. Through this pretension, people discover new things and new passions. So when we write people's interests off as pretentious,
I would say as well, the people who are typically called pretentious are the people who do not try new things. They've settled on what they think is correct and are asserting it's something that's just the best, the most amazing. Which means they're not going to look for other things because, they've already figured it out. They're a genius. They've already got it. They're on a higher level than everyone else. They know what's right. They don't need to look at anything else. They don't need to consider the possibility that their shit stinks.
We're actually killing a desire to learn and a really healthy curiosity about the world. For argument's sake, let's say all pretension was wiped out of the world. It's easy to think the resulting society would be straightforward, easy to understand, and pretty much agreeable to everyone.
No,
but
this has nothing
in reality,
to do with...
without pretension, society would look a lot more like this. It's because everything...
What is pretentiousness good? Yes, because with pretentiousness, we have modern society. Without pretentiousness, we would be grug. Thing I like, make good thing happen.
Even the most seemingly unpretentious things were born from pretension. In the early 2000s,
give me an example.
Pretentious studio heads in Hollywood decided it was time to push the limits of comic books and created the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
How were they pretentious?
A man named Adolphus Bush was...
How were they pretentious?
Was pretentious enough to reimagine the American beer market in the 1800s. He pushed to redefine his business, his product, and his whole industry, resulting in Budweiser. Even further back, a pretentious Neanderthal one day decided to leave his cave and actually build a house. You see, whether you...
Did Neanderthals have class? Because if they didn't, then his definition doesn't apply. Or at least a part of his definition doesn't apply. Did he define what he thinks being pretentious means? Not really. He gave several... He gave sort of a handful of potentially mutually exclusive definitions, making it unclear whether he's talking about how people use it or how he thinks it should be used or how it is used or how it has been used. Basically he just kind of went and splattered about a bunch of potential uses and then decided to run with, pretension means you're ambitious.
You're talking about Budweiser, Apple Computer, Marvel movies, Picasso paintings, or even the houses we live in. Pretension is the fuel that pushes humanity forward. All progress in all things is the result of someone's pretension. Pretension to redefine their chosen medium and strive to create something entirely new.
No. It's pretentious when you haven't done that and act like you have and act like you're above it, above everyone else, and that your work is above everyone else's, when it isn't. Or at least when you judge it not to be, and they're saying it is. You're just a fucking wanker pretending you're better than you are. You haven't done it.
Without pretension, there is no ambition. We are all suddenly cavemen living in huts. So how can we redefine pretension?
You just did, brother. You just did. You've been doing that for the past 9 minutes.
Usually calling something pretentious is just a way to shut down discourse. You see, a person would rather call something pretentious than admit to not understanding.
You can call something you understand pretentious. For example, what if someone says this bowl of beans that I've taken a photo of is gonna change art. It's gonna change everyone's understanding of everything. Maybe it's a cool photo. Maybe you like it. Maybe there's a message to it and you get the message and you're like, bro, it's a good job, but no, you're being pretentious.
That thing. So when people call things pretentious, they do so because it is easy. It's easier to write things off than to have any moment of self-reflection. Maybe that painting isn't pretentious. Maybe you just don't have the requisite knowledge to understand it. Certainly.
Dog, I can't. I thought he said doing shit like this is bad. He literally said earlier that condescension is harm. He literally said earlier that suggesting people are dumb or implying people are dumb is innately harmful because it's condescending. Now he's advocating condescension.
Striking down the efforts of others is a lot easier than admitting your own shortcomings. Or more to the point, going out and doing something about those shortcomings. Anytime you see a movie or eat food that you think is pretentious, just ask yourself, what is it pretending to be? Is it pretending to be anything at all, or is it something that I just don't really understand?
Normally, it takes in the context of who made it and what they said it is, or what it's meant to do or be. Rarely will you just have food materialize on your plate with no external context.
More often, things that are called pretentious are just the product of ambition mixed with insufficient talent. Perhaps a film tries to deal with complex, important topics, but is the victim of bad filmmaking or bad writing.
And if they then proceed to assert that it succeeds where it doesn't, and it does something it doesn't, and it is something it isn't, they might be a bit pretentious.
In most cases, there's much more insightful and constructive,
which might lead them to overlook capacity or space where they can improve, which would hold back progress, brother. Sorry.
Criticism to be made than pretentious. Ultimately, pretentiousness is found when someone strives for greatness. Sometimes these efforts succeed, and other times they absolutely fail. When the latter happens, it can be easy to poke fun at, but
it also happens when you're scamming someone. So when you are asserting that something is great or is going to be great and you're going to do something great, that's the basis of a lot of confidence scams. Is he going to bring that up? The way he's defining pretension here also applies to scams. Just saying.
To stretch beyond your ability, risk and all, is nothing short of admirable. If we abandon...
This could be an ad for Kickstarter. If we don't fund all these people trying to stretch way outside their abilities, that's bad. We should support that. I mean, if you're not, then you're holding society back. If this is all true, should you be upset if you fund a Kickstarter that totally fails and doesn't deliver? There are problems that his definition and his solution have all on their own, even though I'd argue that his definition isn't what pretentiousness is.
And in pretentiousness, we abandon the desire for progress. That's why I think we should all be a little more pretentious. A lot of the ideas in this video were taken from the book Pretentiousness, Why It Matters by Dan Fox.
Bro,
this video was at all interesting to you, I'd strongly suggest checking that out.
P.S. I plagiarized? What?